How are you feeling? How long have you been here?
3 months, May 17th.
And what brought you?
That's difficult to answer.
Eventually resulted in your being here in the hospital.
That's difficult to answer.
this the end? There's a noise inside my head of crying people facing death. Is this the end? Is this the end? Oh, I'm burning in the dystopia. There's no place to hide. I'm burning in the dystopia. This is the final time. What have we done to the world? What have we done to the world? I'm burning in the dystopia. There's no place to hide. I'm burning in the dystopia. This is the final
Hey everyone, welcome back to our streaming extravaganza. We are heading into Spy Stream. I can see, per usual, notifications have not gone out on the channel, probably because I posted too many videos today. But if you guys could do me a favor and mount the like button for me to let YouTube know to actually recommend. I was this close to breaking out of the YouTube shadow ban. I was this close. So close. Whatever. Hopefully more people will come in because we are about to start Spy Stream. Let me just get up the Zoom for this, see if the Zoom is open yet. We're going inside a live leftist training tonight, y'all, about the millionaires and the billionaires and the tech bros and all that good stuff. I just got to get the Zoom up. Okay, they're not starting yet. So we've got a couple minutes. I do have it up on my screen. We'll be able to see when they start. Tonight, we are going inside a presentation that is run by a leftist group that is definitely involved with like the people who are doing the No Kings protests this weekend. Yeah, we're already getting Southern, Reagan. I'm not even drinking, and that Southern accent is coming out, y'all. It's coming out. Don't tempt me, Reagan. Don't try to assert your will on me. I will speak in a Southern accent if I damn well please, girl. Nothing you can do to stop me, Reagan. You're not even on the stream, okay? All right, enough of that. We are going inside a training called the Billionaire Power Grab and How We Fight Back. This is hosted by an organization that has been involved in the planning of all the protests that are going on this weekend. They're more of a progressive organization. I don't expect a lot of far leftist stuff tonight, but this is going to be better than some of the other things I think we've done. So I think it's going to be interesting to see what they have to say. We might get some spicy quotes about Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and Peter Thiel and all this stuff. So that is what we're going to be doing, guys. The training should be starting very, very, very soon. As a reminder, if you want to support the work I'm doing, head over to my Substack. That is Karlyn, Karlyn.substack.com. You can click on the very ominous-looking video of my eyes. I don't know why Substack formats things like this. I got to fix this. I got to add a real thumbnail to that or something because it's weird. But this is a live stream I did earlier today talking about my predictions for the protests. I've been doing live streams very regularly on my Substack. So download the Substack app. You can sign up for free. Get notified when I go live exclusively on there. You can come in the chat and ask me questions. These are just my thoughts about what's going on for the day, what I see coming up. Who's hosting this? It's the organization that hosted all of the other trainings for the the other protests, like the May Day protests. I forget the name of the organization. It's not a well-known organization, but that's who's hosting this. Anyway, if you want to support the work I'm doing, the very best way to become a supporter is by joining on the Substack. That is, again, is Karlyn, Karlyn.substack.com. You can sign up for free. You can access my massive archive of information, because I do have a massive archive of information over there. I have clips, I have articles, I have breakdowns of the far left. If you have questions about the far left, check out some of my content on there. That'll help you out. And of course, become a supporter of my work, because I am completely independently funded. I have no political masters. I have no political narrative. My only job is to show up and to show you guys what's going on and to tell you what I think about it, but mostly just to give you the information, because I think y'all are smart enough to think for yourselves. I don't need to tell you what to think. I'm just going to show you what the left is saying and doing, and I'm going to explain what the language means, and then you guys can decide what to do about it. So everyone is welcome in my audience. You don't have to be a certain political persuasion. I have people of all different types on my channel, I promise you. Those of you who have never been to a spy stream before, as a reminder, we are watching a live training. This is live. I don't know what they're going to say or do. It might be the most boring thing we ever watch. It might be really interesting. It could go either way. They might have technical difficulties. I can't fix their technical difficulties. It's not my technical difficulties. It's usually theirs. I will not be doing commentary over the training, because this is my recording too. But I may type things in the chat like this. And when I type things in the chat like that, I might also display them on the screen if I want to save that for posterity. So, but I won't be doing commentary over it, because I do actually want to record this, and we want to make sure we're listening to what they're saying. The whole point of this exercise is to listen to what the left is saying when we think that, or when they think that people like us aren't actually listening. All super chats, if you choose to send in a super chat, will be honored, but maybe not during the recording. Okay, so if you do send in a super chat, of course I appreciate it. It's always nice when people do those things, just like this. Alex, thank you. I will honor those super chats. I will display them on the screen, but probably not until we're done watching the training, all right? Just one last note, it should be getting started any minute. Sometimes I have a minor technical difficulty in terms of getting the browser to hook into the webinar. If that happens, I might disappear off screen for a couple seconds. Don't worry, I'll be right back. I just need to restart the browser, okay? I can't tell when it's going to happen. I restarted the browser before we got started. Hopefully it doesn't happen, but if it does, if I need to disappear, I will be right back. Don't worry about it. Thank you. I appreciate it. Oh, what a day. What a day. I hope you guys are having a good one. Welcome to all the new people on the channel. If you've never been to a spy stream before, we do these quite regularly. Usually spy streams are for supporters only, because it makes it a lot easier in terms of logistics. Also, it's easy to get caught doing stuff like this. Now, the organization that we're spy streaming tonight, they don't care if we do this, but there are a lot of spy streams we do where we go inside private events.
Recording in progress.
Started. Those are usually supporters only, but let's tune into this.
Sometimes you gotta pop out and show. Certified boogeyman, I'm the one that up the score with him. Walk him down whole time, I know he got some hoe in him. Pull on him, extort, bully the flow on him. Say Drake, I hear you like I'm young. You better not ever go to cell block 1. To any that talk to him and they in love, just make sure you hide your little sister from him. They tell me Chubb's the only one that get your hand-me-downs and party at the party playing with his nose now. And Baka got a weird case, why is he around? Certified lover boys, certified pedophiles. Wop, 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 that up. Wop, 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 wop. I'ma do my stuff. Why you trolling like a, ain't you tired? Trying to strike a chord and it's probably A minor.
I hate all hip-hop except for Ye. Ye is the only good hip-hop artist. That's it.
They not like
and
us.
only for that
They
one
not
song
like
that I
us.
like, that
They
I'm not
not
allowed
like
to
us.
mention for reasons.
They not like us. They not like us. They not like us. You think the Bay gon' let you disrespect Pop? I think that Oakland show gon' be your last stop. They cold foul. I don't know why you still pretending. What is the owl? Bird? Then bird. Go. The audience not dumb. Shape the stories how you want. Hey Drake, they're not slow. Rabbit hole is still deep. I can go further, I promise. Ain't there some B-rest that's for bitching? You Malibu most wanted. Ain't no love boy, you ball boy. Fish Gatorade or something. Since 2009, I had this jumping. Cause it get a wedgie. Be flipped over your boxes. Or over your foe. The other... They posture, got famous all up in content. Might write this with a doctor. Tell a pop star quit hiding. A caption won't action, no accident. I'm hands on. He f around, get polished. Don't Wayne grow like he was in jail. That's conniving. Then get his face.
Welcome, everyone. See, folks are still coming in. Before we get started, we're going to have one of our wonderful translators, Vanessa, share to get set up for all of our Spanish-speaking friends.
Thank you, Sandra. Hola a todos. Recuerden que hoy vamos a tener interpretación disponible para escuchar este evento en
Taco,
español.
Nacho,
Entonces, para
buenos
activar la
días,
interpretación,
biblioteca,
recuerden
¿dónde
que
está
necesitan
la
hacer clic
biblioteca?
en el globo de
We
interpretación.
speak English.
Está en la parte inferior derecha de su pantalla.
Nachos,
Elija el idioma en el
burrito,
que
we
desea
speak
escuchar, en
English
este
in
caso
America.
español. Y recuerde silenciar el audio original. Si está conectado a
No
Zoom desde su
español,
teléfono,
por
toque los 3
favor.
puntos de la esquina inferior derecha donde dice más, elija interpretación de idiomas, elija el idioma en el que quiera escuchar y a continuación toque hecho o done. Y recuerde silenciar el audio original. En un momento también vamos a pegar las instrucciones en el chat. Thank you. Gracias.
All right, well, welcome to the Billionaire Power Grab webinar, everybody. My name is Sakib Bhatti. I'm the Executive Director of Bargaining for the Common Good. We are so excited to see so many people come out tonight to keep our momentum from May Day going strong as we continue to build up to 2028 and beyond. I see that many of you are coming from organizations and unions that led or participated in the most widespread May Day this country has ever seen. From small towns to big cities, together, we held more than 1,500 marches, rallies, and protests. 60,000 workers went on strike. Together, we rose up against billionaires demanding public schools over private profits, healthcare over hedge funds, and resources for workers, communities of color, immigrants, and all of us on this call, our families and communities. This week, we're seeing in LA and across the country that people are willing and ready to rise up to protect each other and resist authoritarianism. We're seeing people make the connection between the expansion of the surveillance of police states with the growing power of corporations. These actions are not just symbolic. At Bargaining for the Common Good, we have known for a long time that the billionaires control the wealth and political capital in this country. They rigged the system and set the rules for all of us, and that has never been as clear as it is in this moment right now. The news is flush with Trump and Elon Musk's fallout. But we know that even as the players change, the systems in place stay the same. The wealthy are grabbing more and more power right before our eyes. It's up to all of us to come together and take them on, and that's why we're here tonight. So thank you so much for joining us as we make sense of this moment together. We have nearly 500 people on the call right now, which is just so inspiring for Wednesday evening. So I will pass it on to Sandra Lane to kick us off.
Thank you, Sakib. I am so glad to see all of you. My name is Sandra Lane. I'm the Education Director with Bargaining for the Common Good. And if you're new to BCG, we're a network of union, community, faith organizations building really broad alignments, fighting for changes we want to see in our workplaces, communities, like racial justice, housing, climate justice, by organizing together, going after the bad actors like billionaires. And we're so excited to see nearly 500 folks on this call, and just want to start out by giving you a really big shout out. One effect of this billionaire power grab is that we're all squeezed really thin by our jobs, our being there for our family and community, and just putting out all of the fires, responding to the really overwhelming volume of attacks on our communities that we're seeing, that we're living through. And yet after just what I'm sure is a very long day for all of you, you showed up with people you know, a lot of people you don't know, to figure out what we're going to do about it. So with that said, know your time is precious, and we're going to jump right into it. So here's what we're going to do tonight. We're going to take a look at what Trump, Elon Musk, and really a handful of billionaires are doing, coming after us, what they've been able to accomplish with this thing you may have heard of called Doge. We're going to break down like what the impacts are, no matter where you are in this country. And then more importantly, we're going to talk about our playbook, what we're doing about it. So how people just like you, just like me, are fighting back and really winning. And we're going to share some really concrete strategies to go after the billionaires in your own state, in your own backyard, and leave with some things you can put into practice. We have a really incredible lineup of speakers. The one and only Cecily Maillard Cruz from the president of United Teachers Los Angeles. We have Gavin Marinchek from the Center for Coalfield Justice, and Alicia Chavez, the vice president of Portland Association of Teachers. So first, wanted to introduce my incredible co-host, JP Connolly. He's a seasoned community leader and organizer. He's organized and led key fights for housing justice in Latin America, in Texas, now with Silicon Valley Rising. He was one of the first people on the front lines when Elon Musk stepped into the White House, one of the first people on the front lines, talking to folks, putting a plan together. We're so fortunate he could join us. So welcome, JP.
Thank you, Sandra. It's great to be here. And I just want to say that I think, like so many others on this call, you know, we're here in the community right now. I mean, our community is under attack, you know, and as our neighbors really are struggling right now in this moment here in California, we are also in the process of learning about these billionaires who are taking over our communities in so many ways, who are squeezing us, putting the pressure on us. And so I, like so many others on this call, I'm just learning about all of this right now, right? And we're in the process of learning about this together. And I think I'm excited about the idea that you don't have to be an expert to talk about this with your friends, with your family, with the people that you care about, that there isn't some secret group of experts that's going to tell us how we're going to take on the power of these billionaires. We all have to learn about this and figure this out together. But I'm excited because I believe that if we put our hearts together, if we put our minds together, if we put our resources together, that we can take on this fight, that the people on this call, you know, are mighty if we all put our hearts and resources together. So I'm excited to be in this call with you, and thank you for having me, Sandra.
So we are going to start the night out together by naming our issues and our values and why we're really here, what we are fighting for. We have over 500 folks on this call tonight. So let's dream a little bit, right? We know billionaires are dreaming and scheming. So let's do the same thing. Let's dream too. So I want to ask you, 10 years from now, what do you want the world to look like? So if money was no issue, if resources were no issue, what kind of changes do you want to see? What is one change you'd want to see in your community? What is one thing that you would want to win? And we can bring that question up on the screen as well.
And yeah, we're some wonderful answers here in the chat. Universal healthcare, housing for all, clean oceans, no borders. Lots of mentions of universal healthcare here in the chat, Sandra.
Beautiful. And they keep rolling in. Nice. And now let's just name like who's actually getting in the way of that, right? So what kind of future do Elon Musk and Donald Trump want? Or what kind of future do billionaires want? What do you think? What are we seeing?
I think we're still a mix of answers here. Okay, now it's shifting to the answers about the billionaires. Control over workers, women as a third class, total control, tyranny, a fascist country.
Yeah.
And they just keep coming now.
Keep coming in. Yeah, it's dark. So let's actually look at what's at stake. So the billionaires that we're going to learn about, they're acting at such a fast pace, right? We're seeing them come after some of the very protections that we've built decades to win. Things like child labor laws, right? The right to stay in this country if you're born here. Basic protections are really all under attack right now. And if we do nothing, right, if we leave this webinar and we say, that was fun, let's go back to business as usual, and we don't take action, what we're going to see is what you all are naming right now, right? The society that billionaires want to create, one where they can keep their wealth and profit off of us while we have fewer and fewer options for jobs, for services, and of course, fewer ways to actually take political action and change things, right? A future where they can control us with over surveillance in our neighborhoods, as many of you named, surveillance in our workplaces, public spaces, and a future where our communities and families are not safe, right? More of the attacks that we're actually seeing today, and where data is used to surveil and profit off of us. So we're going to get into how they're doing all this in just a minute. But first, we didn't just get here overnight, right? there was this thing that paved the way called neoliberalism, and we really can't talk about billionaires without talking about neoliberalism. So I'm curious, like, how many folks have heard the word neoliberalism before or heard it thrown around, maybe talked about it? You can give me a thumbs up reaction. You can find your reactions on your bottom participant bar. Should be able to react or just raise your hand. All right, I'm definitely seeing some folks, some no's. All right. I think neoliberalism is a word that we throw around a lot, right? And we just want to get clear together on what it really means and why it matters for us. So, JP, what does neoliberalism mean to you?
Yeah, you know, I think to get clear about what neoliberalism is, it's important to go back earlier in the 20th century to the beginning of the 20th century when you really have these organized movements of workers pushing back hard against the captains of industry, against the great monopoly capitalists who are really, you know, exploiting workers in the United States in a very extreme way. And you have these organized movements of workers fighting back. You also have organized movements of women fighting for political rights, and you have Black and brown and indigenous communities fighting for civil rights. And so you have these really important movements in the 20th century pushing for things, right? And so with the Great Depression comes a really important moment where we push for regulation of the financial sector, regulation of industry, because we recognize that these industries can really harm our communities when the economy collapses. And so there were these important wins in the 20th century where our movements, various different popular political movements, won some space. And so then, you know, around the 60s, you have a group of folks, political leaders, economists, different kinds of intellectuals, really aligning with the interests of industrialists, big capitalists, oil and gas and other sectors, and saying, you know what, this has gone way too far. These people are, you know, the civil rights movement, they're going to want more and more civil rights. They're going to want more equity. All this talk about equality is going too far. This talk about the unions are getting too powerful, too much union power, and way too much regulation of industry, right? And so then you start to have the beginning of this movement that, following the inspiration of a thinker named Friedrich Hayek, they start to self-entitle, they call themselves neoliberals. And that movement really picks up steam in the 70s, in the Reagan era, where you start to see this cutting back at all the regulations and at so many of the things that workers and social movements fought so hard to win in the 20th century. So a little nutshell history lesson, but that's really what neoliberalism is. It's about really clawing back power for the captains of industry, the big titans, the monopoly capitalists, right? And that's how it started.
Yeah, that's right. And we're going to get even more specific about what that means. So thanks for laying the foundation. We're going to play a true or false game. So on our next slide, I want you to raise your hand if you think this is true and keep it down if it's false. So true or false, neoliberalism says corporations should be freed from taxes and regulation. All right, I'm seeing a lot of hands go up. I'm seeing folks saying true in the chat. That's exactly right. That is true. And JP, what do you think? Is this just about economics here?
Yeah, I mean, economics is a really important part of it, but it's much bigger than economics, right? And so it's important when we talk about neoliberalism, there definitely was this wave in the 1970s of deregulation of industry, of financialization of everything, billionaires accumulating even more wealth and power, this kind of move towards deregulating industry everywhere and trying to claw back power that unions had won. And so that is a really important part of it. But it's not just the economics, it's also a political movement. It's also a cultural movement. Neoliberalism really is about pushing back against equality, pushing back against any kind of attempt to pass laws that might regulate industry or regulate institutions, or that might try to promote things like equity and equality. Neoliberalism is strongly against all of that, right? The only kind of freedom that it promotes really is just freedom for business, right? Freedom for business owners to make money. And exploit our communities. What's the next question? Neoliberalism says that government and public services should be cut down. Is that true or false? Lots of truths on this one. Let's see what the answer is. Oh, definitely true.
Great. Yeah, everyone got it spot on. So, as we know, our taxes really pay for public services. We have like schools, like education, and neoliberalism wants to make those services like privately owned, right? So they can make money off our essential services. And of course, we have some real critiques about government services, ways to improve them. But this is really not about whether government is good or bad. At the heart of neoliberalism, it's about, do we want to, about using government to make profit to make the ultra rich even richer, versus government that works for us, right? For the people. So y'all are killing this true or false game. So we have one more left for you. So true or false, only Republicans believe in neoliberalism. Raise your hand if you think that's true. Keep it down if it's false. All right. Well, clearly we could not trick you guys. That is false. So, JP, who are some folks who come to mind from both sides of the aisle who supported neoliberalism?
I think we see them in this photo right here, right? But we have important examples. Under Obama, we saw after the massive financial crash, we saw policies to bail out the financial sector, allowing people who had really profited off this disastrous crash that harmed our communities to walk away with massive bonuses. And we saw under Clinton, NAFTA and trade agreements that hurt workers all around North America, right? And so there's examples across both sides of the aisle of policies that undermine union power, undermine workers, and that really advance this agenda of neoliberalism. So yeah, it's definitely not a exclusive party Republican or Democrat thing.
Right. So awesome work, y'all, on this pop quiz. So let's just review, right? We know neoliberalism really paved the way for the moment that we're in by freeing corporations from taxes and regulation, by cutting down or privatizing government and public services. And we've seen this used by both Republicans and Democrats alike. So what we're about to see is really neoliberalism on steroids, right? Billionaires who are taking this same idea, but using technology and consolidating power in a very harmful and dangerous way. So we talked about neoliberalism. Let's talk about what we see today, the neo-reactionaries.
Yeah. And, it's interesting. The neo-reactionaries aren't all that new, right? A lot of what they're putting out there is just really repackaging old ideas, and some really old ideas. But, I think at the core of it, neo-reactionaries are just an outgrowth. We're learning more and more about them and how they think. And they're really coming from just a radical fringe, a radical front of the neoliberal movement, right? And so they believe in replacing, democratically elected leaders with technocrats, with this idea of a CEO running the state as opposed to an elected official or president. And really this idea of thinking of government more and more as a corporation, right? And so, they also have weird things. They love to cosplay that they're in the Middle Ages. They love to pretend like they can go back to feudalism, and they talk about things like going back to monarchy, going back to old school ideas like that. But it's really just a fetish for a world where corporations have unlimited control, and where people like you and me and those of us who are on this call have no voice, no participation, because we're not experts and we're not billionaires and we don't control the technology, so we shouldn't have a say, right? And that's fundamentally the neo-reactionary position. And I think there's a next slide. Oh yeah, so then that brings us to Curtis Yarvin, who really is kind of one of the thinkers that has really advanced this idea of neo-reaction. And he's, through his close connections to people like Peter Thiel and J.D. Vance, who we're going to hear more about later on, has really put forward a lot of these ideas, but they're not really original. They're not really his ideas. People before him, people like Murray Rothbard, were already writing a lot of the same things in the 70s. He's just saying them again in a more extreme way and packaging them for more chronically online people. But fundamentally, in the mishmash of language that he uses, it's the same idea, right? Thinking of the president as a CEO, as a king, who has the final say on things. This complete rage against the government, right? Which is very misleading and manipulative in many ways. But this idea, I think we can all, now that we've all seen Doge in practice, it's interesting to see that in the 90s, Curtis Yarvin was already talking about this concept of retire all government employees, right? Rage and Doge. And so any similarity between those two ideas is not a coincidence. These ideas have been around for a long time. People just keep trying to repackage them. But this insistence that democracy is dangerous, right? Democracy is this malignant form of government. Democracy is a problem. And why is democracy dangerous? Because if under democracy, workers might build enough power to regulate corporations, right? Under democracy, people like us on this call might put our heads together and might vote for someone that could advance real regulations. And that's just not acceptable, right? Corporations need to have unfettered control. So there's a lot of that, packaged in different ways, in different forms, but that's really what Curtis Yarvin talks a lot about. And I wish we didn't have to talk about Curtis Yarvin, except that Curtis Yarvin and his friends have really started to pull the strings, right, in so many ways under this current administration. And so if we think about like who's really moving so much of this scary agenda forward that we see in our community right now, these aren't the only people, but here are some really important names for all of us to learn, right? No one needs to talk about Elon Musk. I think we all know who Elon Musk is. But it's really important to note that Elon Musk is closely connected to all of the other people on this call, on this slide. And then, of course, we have our Vice President, J.D. Vance, who was, and then we have Peter Thiel, who runs Palantir, and Mark Andreessen. And, I think it's interesting for all of us to just take a moment and read some of the quotes. These people say a lot of things online. I think this past week, many of us have spent some time reading some of Musk's tweets, but these folks have been pretty vocal about how they feel about people like us, about working folks, about democracy. We have Peter Thiel here saying, "I no longer believe that freedom and democracy are compatible." And then here you have J.D. Vance saying, "Fire every single mid-level bureaucrat, every civil servant in the administrative state, replace them with our people," right? So they're very blatant about how they feel about working folks, right? You have Mark Andreessen saying, it's good that these poor folks have Oxycontin and video games, right? And things like that to keep them distracted, because they have a real disregard, a disdain for everyday people and for everyday people's voice in the political process. So let's, a little bit more about them. I think we all know enough about Elon Musk, but it's important to recognize the reach of his empire, right? I mean, he's got SpaceX, he's got Starlink, which has contracts with many other corporations. He controls X, social media platform that gives him the ability to broadcast. And, even if he's no longer in the government right now, officially, the Doge team that he set up very much still serves his agenda and interests and is still active in the federal government right now. And then you have Peter Thiel. I mean, right now we look at the horror that is being perpetrated against so many of our communities. Invading, tearing apart families while kids are in school, invading our neighborhoods, the terror that ICE is committing against so many of our communities right now. Well, it's important for us to know that Peter Thiel is not only a venture capitalist, but his corporation that he helped found, Palantir, provides the tech backbone that enables ICE to gather data on all of us, right? So ICE has this software system, and they've built this thing called the case management, investigative case management, that allows them to just put together all of this data, surveillance data on immigrant communities. And that is what allows ICE to know where to find people and to target people, right? So you have this combination of venture capital. And of course, Peter Thiel was an early investor in J.D. Vance, and was really, in many ways, J.D. Vance is kind of like Peter Thiel's protege, right? So they're all connected. And one of the things that these people, all four of these folks have in common is they all have close ties to the world of venture capital, which is a world that aims for massive scale, right? Big profits, big wins, crush all opposition. So you have people like Peter Thiel saying, competition is for losers. We should aim for monopoly, right? And they're saying that very blatantly. So it's a very different logic, even from other ideas of capitalism that might have existed at other times in this country. This form of capitalism that's promoted by VC, by venture capital, is a winner takes all mentality. It's about crushing opposition and going for like completely unsustainable scale at all costs, right? Regardless of the consequences to communities and regardless of the social good. So that's a little bit of who's behind this new takeover of the federal government and who's behind so much of what Trump is doing. So really awful people. I wish we could spend less time talking about them, but it's important for us to get to know them, get to know some of their agenda. And of course, you know, Mark Andreessen, who we saw on the last slide, donated $2.5 million. These people are all putting money into political campaigns. And so we need to get to know them and understand what their agenda is.
That's right. And, you know, JP just shared these folks have seemingly endless wealth and resources, right, to use on things like influencing elections. So exactly how much money are we talking about? We're going to actually launch a poll and give you some options. So you should see a poll pop up. And if you can't find your poll or you're on your phone or something, I will let you know. We're asking, how much wealth do you think these four men have? Is it enough to pay off medical debt for everyone in the country? Is it enough to pay off private student loan debt for everyone in the country? Is it more than your entire state budget? So no matter what state you live in, we know the state budget pays for things like education and healthcare. Is it more than the GDP of 150 different countries? Is it enough to address the housing crisis for all families in the US? Is it $455 billion, or is it all of the above? All right, see a lot of great responses coming in. Beautiful. So we're going to share the results now. So if you said all of the above, you are correct, right? So we are talking about, I just want to let that sink in. We're talking about more than entire countries. So I know it kind of like makes my blood boil. Like if you think about every time we've been fighting for just like a little bit more in our state budget or just a little bit more at the bargaining table for our union contract. Meanwhile, we have billionaires just hoarding this wealth and on top of that, getting tax breaks. So should anyone have this much wealth? Of course not. And so what do these folks want to do? They want to keep their wealth. So let's actually look at what these guys are really up to. So what is the billionaire playbook? We know they want to cut essential services, steal our personal data, fire public workers and attack unions, and dismantle the government and seize power. We already see a lot of this in practice. So we're actually going to do a deeper dive into each of these. So we're going to take a look at Doge and the effects of Doge, whether we see Elon Musk leading it there or whether his buddies are leading it, right? If you're following the drama between Musk and Trump, regardless, we know that Doge is in full effect. What is it? I think I was talking about Doge for maybe a full month before. I was like, what does it stand for? The Department of Government Efficiency. So it's this government-wide agency staffed by individuals connected to the folks, the villains we just named. And when Doge was set up, they claimed it was about finding efficiency and fraud in our federal government. Enough time has passed that we can see that's just not true, right? It's really just an excuse to cut the items they don't like by labeling things they don't like as fraud. So we know they're using this as an excuse to come after diversity programs, science, journalism, immigrants, foreign aid, so many more things. So let's actually take a look at what kind of services they're coming after under this disguise of Doge. I want you to raise your hand if you or someone you know is receiving some of the services I'm about to name. So raise your hand if you know someone who receives Medicare or Medicaid, or maybe you do yourself. If you know a veteran who relies on services from the VA. If you or someone you know has a child with special needs or knows a family with a special needs student, right? They rely on funding from the Department of Education. And do you know someone or plan to receive Social Security when they retire? Maybe know someone battling cancer or a cancer survivor, right? We know they're cutting funding for NIH grants for universities to do this research. So these are all services. I'm seeing most hands go up, really. These are all services that we rely on, and they're all under attack by Doge. So they want to cut these essential services. We know that's number one in their playbook. We know that they want to cut these services so that they have more money for their tax breaks. And that is tactic number one. So what is number two in their playbook, JP?
Yeah, well, they can do so much by stealing our data, right? And data is incredibly valuable. It's an incredibly valuable resource in this current new tech economy. Primary opportunities to mine your data, right? And that just means like to track your activities, your behavior, your conversations, and your actions. Those primary activities are very, very valuable things, extremely valuable things, because by combining lots of different data sets from lots of different places, you can learn all kinds of things and you can make very accurate predictions sometimes, and that help you, that's what businesses use to sell us things online, right? But it can also be used to control and manipulate people in all kinds of other ways. And we are only beginning to understand the consequences of the kind of takeover that Musk and the Doge team were able to effect over the federal government in such a short amount of time. And by taking over things like the Bureau of Fiscal Services, right? These obscure agencies that many of us don't really hear about, don't really know much about. This is like the plumbing of our economy, right? And that allows them to observe and monitor and track financial transactions in real time all around the country. It gives them like an all-seeing eye into financial transactions, into all of our financial transactions, right? But they also took control over the ability to monitor. It's essentially as if you were to walk into a corporation and take control of their finances, their financial department, and then also their HR department, because they can also monitor and control and communicate directly with employees. So it gives them just a tremendous amount of power, direct messaging power, the ability to communicate directly to people. And we don't yet know what all of this means. And, there's still plenty of time for us to push back on it and defend our liberties and our privacy. But we have to understand this is extremely dangerous, right? Some of this stuff might feel obscure, but letting them lay their hands on our data has big consequences. So just to quickly, different federal agencies, they store different data sets about us that are relevant to their work. So, the National Institute of Health has some of the, information that they use for cutting edge medical research. And Customs and Border Patrol knows, what countries you travel to, and there's all kinds of agencies that keep bits and pieces of data. But Doge is now managing to get its hands on all of that, right? And through Doge, Palantir, Peter Thiel, that guy that we heard about a little earlier that hates democracy, has also been able to move into the federal government and access data in ways that are really scary and that we are only beginning to learn about. But we should all be very concerned about this move to steal our data.
That's right. And their next goal, they have been very clear about their goal to fire public workers and attack unions, to fire 75% of the workforce. And that's because we know how much power workers have when we organize, right? Going after the public sector and going after unions is a strategy. That's why the attacks have been so aggressive. And there's impacts for all of us, right? No matter where you live, whether you're union or non-union, their attacks on workers and our rights have an impact. As we see Trump and Elon Musk and their buddies kind of carry out their anti-union agenda in DC, we see states really feeling empowered to do the same. So Utah passed a law that prohibits collective bargaining by public sector workers. We saw a mission company right after refuse to move forward with a union election. And we know that this attack on unions and workers is really about coming after our way to organize with each other. So meanwhile, what are they doing? They're looking for ways to replace our work with AI. JP, how do you think that's working out for them so far?
Yeah, I mean, well, we have some examples that I encourage everyone who's interested in learning more about this to go look at, because we have examples of communities around the country that have already experienced what some of this Doge type policy does. And when you replace humans with AI systems that are making these decisions, the effects are disastrous, right? So I think everyone should get to know what happened in Arkansas. What happened in Arkansas is really important. They replaced human workers with this AI system, AI chatbots, to evaluate and make decisions about Medicaid funding access. And that led to 50% cuts for patients with severe medical conditions. So that's a big deal, right? Overnight, the AI just decided to cut 50%, right? And so there were lawsuits, of course, and this has been pushed back on, but the damage, so much damage was done to patients who got their Medicaid cut by an AI system that made this decision arbitrarily. Michigan tried to use an AI system to detect fraud in unemployment benefits, and it led to a false alarm rate of 93%. 93% false alarm rate. 40,000 people were falsely accused of fraud in their unemployment benefits. We're talking about, thousands and thousands and thousands of people directly harmed by an AI decision-making system that just doesn't work, right? So incredibly dangerous, and also just highly ineffective at doing the things that these AI systems are supposed to be effective at doing, right? So it's really not about government efficiency at all. And I highly encourage folks to look at what happened in Arkansas, look at what happened in Michigan, because those examples are really scary. Yeah, and they're also trying to dismantle the government and seize profit. And so that's another really important part of it, right? Peter Thiel's corporations make billions of dollars from government contracts. Musk's corporations have billions of dollars in government contracts. So although these people claim that they're about small government, they're really not about small government. They're about government that serves their purposes and their agenda. And the government that they want to dismantle is the government that provides oversight, regulation, quality control, consumer protections. That's the government they don't like. But the government that lines their pockets with contracts, they're perfectly happy with that government, right? And so it's important for us to remember that. Sandra, handing back to you.
No, that's right. And we are going to bring it home and review the Billionaire Playbook before we turn things around and talk about what we are doing, how we're taking action. So a little quiz for us here. See, how did me and JP do? If y'all are on board. So what is the Billionaire Playbook? It's to cut essential services, steal our personal data, fire public workers and attack unions, and then dismantle government and seize power. So you might be thinking, how does this impact me and my local community? We're going to get into that next. Why does this matter for all of us? Unfortunately, the billionaire agenda, it doesn't just stop with the federal government, right? We're seeing these so-called efficiency initiatives modeled after Doge being introduced across the states in places like Florida with Floge. And we can bring that up on the next slide. We know Republicans and libertarian leaders in at least 18 states, counties, and towns have launched initiatives that supposedly cut waste and fraud in government. And, even as the faces change, like we see Musk, is he there, is he not? Then we know the billionaire agenda does not. So we're seeing this on the national level, right? Trump is already transitioning to working with other billionaires. And we see this on the local level as well. So where you live, it might not be Musk, it might not be Trump moving the billionaire agenda in your state. It might be your mayor using the billionaire playbook and trying to cut services and jobs to give their friends tax cuts. But we know the billionaires are still in control, which is why we have to take them on. So.
Well, that's interesting, Sandra, to hear you say that, because when I see this stuff happening to the federal government, and then I think about my own local community, I think, well, how does this connect to my local community, right? What can I do in my local community? And so I appreciate you saying that. And I'm curious, like, what can people do, right? What do we do?
Perfect. Yes, we're going to get into that. And we want to hear from folks on this call. We have over 550 people here joining. I saw from labor, from community, from your faith orgs. We want to hear from you. Please drop it in the chat. How are you organizing in the face of these billionaires? Let's hear. What are you up to? Are you What are you doing in your bargaining fights, in your protests? All right, we see a lot coming through. We see collective action, boycotting, protests, marching. Amazing. Well, we're going to get into what is our strategy next, right? We know the Billionaire playbook. We just went through it. What is our playbook? We want to take the crisis directly to the doorsteps of the billionaires. We need to build solidarity among our members. We need to organize against Musk and these tech billionaires. We need to pressure legislators and corporate actors to distance themselves from Musk and these tech billionaires. And finally, we really need to find who are the local billionaires we need to go after. Thankfully, we're about to hear some really incredible leaders who are doing exactly that and moving very exciting work to take on billionaires, win more for their communities. So excited. Our next speaker does not need an introduction, but I will anyways. We are going to hear from the president of UTLA, Cecily Mayart Cruz. She represents over 39,000 educators across LA. She's a teacher, an activist, a mother, the first woman of color in UTLA's history to serve as president of the union. She has a long history of leadership as a teacher, as a union leader, and she's going to share with us how UTLA is taking on SpaceX and Elon Musk to win more for their members. Thanks so much for joining us, Cecily.
Thank you so much. I hope folks can hear me. Yeah, we have to. I appreciate JP and Sandra's conversation around everything that we're up against. We took our fight to SpaceX because when we're talking about a real billionaire fight, who better than the labor union and educators that are doing that work? We know what it takes. We're trying to make sure that we protect our families, our students, our communities, and our students are being robbed of precious resources, financial resources, and capacity building in our workplaces. And we need that. We're talking about when Trump and their administration is talking about cutting lunch programs, like who takes lunch programs away from our students? Obviously the greedy rich and people who don't need this, but our students and our communities need to have it. So we, California Teachers Association, held 5 simultaneous rallies against the billionaires, one in Sacramento, one in San Francisco, San Diego, Hanford in the Central Valley, where it's very conservative, and Los Angeles. And what we did was, it was unprecedented to bring out thousands of educators and community members and do this work together because we're fighting a common enemy. And the common enemy is the billionaire bros, the tech bros, all of these folks, fascists, and trying to beat back authoritarianism. So we took the fight right directly here, live and direct in Hawthorne to SpaceX. And we decided to not only fight back, have a mission of fighting back and fighting forward, but also actually have some joy in the resistance, because that is what is necessary at this moment. We have to have a real laser-like focus. There are so many targets, and that's what this administration is doing to us. We're looking over here. It's almost like the whack-a-mole scenario where, you know, one goes down, another one comes up, and so forth and so on. We need to have a laser-like focus. These are the people that we're focusing on, and let's get to work. And so I know that we'll talk about that a little bit later, but we're talking about here, we have Netflix, the Democratic Party, Amazon. I saw that in the chat. we are going to need to target each one of these folks. We're talking about real estate, the ultra wealthy, ed tech, entertainment. That's what you have in Los Angeles. And so, of course, the attacks are ever present here. That is why they're doing the massive ICE raids here in Los Angeles. And and we're exhausted, but we are joyful and we are hopeful. We have to educate, we have to agitate, and then we have to get into this fight of actual resistance. And folks are out there on the streets. I mean, I can hear them out there from my building here at UTLA. This affects all of us. And what I did want to say is I'm glad that this convening is happening with bargaining for the common good. We have been using bargaining for the common good for a long time. And the biggest piece that is a takeaway is that our families and communities and students understand that we have to fight. And so we are fighting in our contract fight for immigration, LGBTQIA. All of these things are germane to what we have to do together. And this is that work. When the billionaires and all these folks are attacking our livelihood, attacking and disappearing our people, we have to have a fight back and fight forward message of education, agitation, and moving forward.
Thank you so much, Cecily. I got chills. I know everyone on this call got chills. Thank you. So powerful. And we are going to hear from another powerful fight that we're seeing right now. We're going to hear from Gavin Marinchek. He is with the Center for Coalfield Justice in Pennsylvania. He knows firsthand the effects of fossil fuel extraction and stepped up to organize rural communities against the harmful effects of fossil fuels. He's inspired folks across Pennsylvania to take action against billionaires. We're so grateful he could join and tell us all about their inspiring fight to take on one of the richest men in our country. So Gavin, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for inviting me and introducing me. Like Sandra mentioned, my name is Gavin Marinchek. I'm a community organizer at the nonprofit Center for Coalfield Justice, and we're a part of what's known as the Payback Coalition. So Center for Coalfield Justice is an environmental and economic justice nonprofit that operates exclusively in southwestern Pennsylvania. That's where our core area is, Washington and Greene counties. So very specific, very rural part of Pennsylvania. These areas deal with a tremendous amount of fossil fuel extraction, which leads to negative public health outcomes and has been affecting the economies of these regions for quite a long time, historically even. We blend organizing, communications, legal and policy strategies to build power with and for the residents across Washington and Greene counties. And the thing that connects us specifically to this group here is we're part of something called the Payback Coalition. It's a group of Pennsylvanians who organize our families, our communities, and the greater public to hold accountable billionaires and corporations who are holding back working people from accomplishing the agendas that matter to them. Our coalition ultimately wants to redistribute the wealth in Pennsylvania and the power so we can have a fully funded and thriving community, essentially just the things that we feel everybody deserves and is entitled to. So why would a very small, very rural nonprofit who primarily does environmental work want to be involved in something like the Payback Coalition, who's looking at billionaire influence? Billionaires, like the person we're about to discuss, Jeffrey Yass, invest extremely heavily in extracting from our communities and into manipulating our government to manipulate the public services that we all rely on. So it doesn't matter that we're a small rural area. We all rely on the same things that everybody does. And Jeffrey Yass's companies have over $100 million invested in the companies that are actively extracting from people's backyards. So that's what brings us here. And a very fun character, Jeffrey Yass. That's the main antagonist of the story of Payback. The coalition, the Payback Coalition, leads what's known as the All Eyes on Yass campaign, which has been taking on Pennsylvania's richest man, who's Jeffrey Yass, since 2022. Put in the chat if you've ever heard of Jeffrey Yass, because he is not like Elon Musk. He's not like a lot of billionaires. He is a comparatively pretty secret, pretty under the radar type of guy who tries to do a lot of his dealings behind the curtain, where people can't judge or call him out on what he's doing. Okay, I see a lot of no's in there, which is good. So Jeffrey Yass runs a global financial firm and has lots of investments in things like TikTok and, as I mentioned, fossil fuels. So yet another tech and financial billionaire, which we've all come to love. Over the past decade, Yass has reshaped Pennsylvania's political system around his own personal vision. He's given tens of millions of dollars in campaign donations and lobbying. He's outspent the top 10 corporate political action committees in Pennsylvania combined. As a matter of fact, he's the only person on the top 10 list. The all other 9 are groups. And then there's Jeffrey Yass in the #1 spot. His agenda is primarily to privatize our schools and to keep taxes low for billionaires and corporations. He's increasingly working on the federal level and also in states like Texas and Florida, just to name some of his influence. So what does Payback physically do to resist something so big and so terrifying? Pennsylvania is a really big state made up of a lot of different communities. So a lot of work with the All Eyes on Yass campaign is ultimately about building statewide power to redistribute the power and wealth that billionaires have, like Jeffrey Yass. So what does it look like? The main thing we do consistently throughout the different partner organizations are popular education trainings. These are intended to inform the public of Jeffrey Yass and billionaire influence in general, educate on the web of connections that comprise the influential network that billionaires and politicians use to control us, and ultimately to inspire working class solidarity to resist the influence of billionaires and corporations. We've trained hundreds of people across the state in different regions, across different races, people who speak different languages, and everybody is shared in a common curriculum. One of the overarching goals is to make Yass just a household name. So when somebody asks you, do you know who Jeffrey Yass is? People will be able to say yes. The alleyesonyass.com actually has a tracker where you can stay up to date on if he's spending on the campaign in races in your area. And our biggest actions, we go to Harrisburg every year to deal with the state budget and help fight for an equitable state budget. We started to connect the dots between Yass's impact on the state and our state budget. Last year, we joined with labor partners to defeat Yass's attempt at doing school vouchers, which is related to school privatization. And through organizing and direct action, we helped get more money for public education in general. We actually had giant checks where the elected officials were meant to cross out to take money. And we built a huge tower of playing cards because he's a notorious gambler to show that he's gambling with people's futures. And these things were successful. When we go to Harrisburg, public education and vouchers didn't win. And this year we're going back again to talk about things and demand better healthcare, education, housing, and environmental protections while the federal government is trying to cut everything. So to conclude, if you're feeling overwhelmed by taking on billionaires in your state, just remember a few years ago that almost nobody in Pennsylvania even knew who Jeffrey Yass was. Like I mentioned earlier, he's not that type of billionaire. Today, way more people know who he is, and we're going every year and demanding that elected officials pick a side. Is it us or billionaires? So there's no way to hide anymore. The more we talk about him, the more we bring to light the influence, and the more we force people to take a stance. And we've had many elected officials already take the pledge to no longer receive money from Yass and return their funding. And many people who've received money in the past are starting to realize that Yass is toxic and people will not vote for them if they accept that money. Like I mentioned, this month, we're going to be there again. And I just want to say for one more hopeful thing, I see a lot of people in the chat are asking what to do, and you can do things at the local level. You can win at the local level. You do have power to affect your life. In our community, the people in New Freeport lost water community. We got them water. People were suffering from cancer and other effects from fossil fuel infrastructure being too close to their house. We led the charge at getting a setback push from people's houses. Voter rights were being infringed on. We sued at the local level. All these things start at the local level. You can do things in your own backyard that can translate to state and national wins, and everybody here is capable of pushing back against billionaire influence. So thank you again.
Thank you, Gavin, for sharing the work that you all are doing in Pennsylvania. We're going to hear from about one more campaign. Unless you've been under a rock, you've probably heard about Tesla Takedown. JP is going to share some top lines from organizing around that, really just being in the belly of the beast. JP, what is Tesla Takedown all about?
Well, I'll ask everyone on this call, raise your hand or drop it in the chat if you have been to a Tesla takedown action, to one of the almost 500 Tesla takedown actions that happened all around the country in communities on the West Coast, on the East Coast. Looks like many of the folks on the call, everybody's been there. Yeah, great. Lots of folks on the call have been there. That's great. So yeah, I mean, I think if you've been to a Tesla takedown action, then you know what Tesla takedown is all about. And really, it was something that really sprung up organically, started on Blue Sky and was lifted up by different folks in different communities who decided to come together and make these actions happen. And what was really exciting about Tesla Takedown is we saw that we have the power. As consumers, we have the power to withhold our resources and to do something. And we have the power to disrupt business as usual, occupy physical space, and change the narrative around this brand, around Tesla. And we have seen it be effective. I believe the Tesla Takedown movement has had a real impact on the Tesla brand and has put real pressure on Elon Musk. And so, I think this is just one example. And what we need now is a growing takedown movement of these other billionaire co-conspirators who are really working with Elon Musk on so much of this. And so I'm excited to see the Tesla takedown energy roll forward and become this broader campaign to take down some of these other oligarchs who are also harming us and robbing us as well. Sandra?
Yeah, that's right. And so if you just heard from Cecily, you heard from Gavin, and you heard from JP, and you're thinking, man, I wish I could do that. I wish I could do that in my state. The good news is that you can, right? In every single state, billionaires are spending money to influence election, coming after tax breaks that should be going into your schools and your communities, and they're getting away with it. So that's why we have to figure out who it is and how to take them on. And sometimes it is the local billionaire in your state. And sometimes it's about, who is hurting our issue around education, immigration, housing, and the things that you're fighting for. So we know going after elected officials and policies is not enough. It's never been more clear than in this moment. And we know that folks are already taking action, and we have ways for you to take action too. So we are going to share with you a survey for you to stay involved. So we have things you can do in your state, whether it's bringing the protest to the billionaires, whether it is taking direct action, applying economic pressure. And we're going to ask you to please, we still have some more ahead for you, but if you do one thing leaving this call, we want to stay connected. We want you to fill out our survey, whether you want to bring this presentation to your own group, to your own union, whether you want support in research from our fantastic research team to identify your bad actors, or if you want to connect with other unions, community groups in your area who are interested in doing the same thing, then we are encouraging you to fill out this survey. So we're going to give folks a moment just to click on the survey, make sure that you have that before we move on. And finally, I'm going to hand it over to our final speaker, our powerhouse vice president of Portland Association of Teachers. Alicia Chavez is an educator, a union leader, a community leader. She brings so many communities together in Portland and beyond, and we're so grateful she could close us out tonight.
Hello, thank you, y'all. Hello, everybody. So as much as most of you know, Portland Association of Teachers went on our district's first ever strike, and Portland Association of Teachers first strike in 2023 for 15 days. And part of that buildup was exposing the bad actors. We used bargaining for the common good to demand things like housing, community services, and just the schools that our students deserve. So one of the things that we talked about is in Oregon, we have 3 billionaires. Well, soon about to be 2, as an announcement today happened that Dutch Brothers is moving to Arizona. So sorry, Arizona, if you're out there. But our 3 billionaires are Phil Knight of Nike, Air Jordan, Hurley, Converse, Tim Boyle of Columbia Sportswear, and Travis Boersma of Dutch Brothers. And I just want to take some time to talk a little bit about conceptually what $1 billion is. So if a person spent $10,000 per day, it would take 100,000 days to spend $1 billion. So just under 274 years to spend $1 billion, where you have people like the map before, like Phil Knight in Oregon, who he's $41.3 billion. And these billionaires continue to get tax breaks and continue to not pay their fair share. And we are doing this work leading up to our next bargain in January of 2026 to educate, like Cecily said, educate and agitate, so that we can all learn that, they don't care about our kids. They continue to make money, and we're losing teachers. Students can't even afford backpacks, and here they are with $41.3 billion. I wanted to show a quick little video in collaboration with Global Labor Justice and Asia Floor Wage, our amazing community coalition organizer, Joanne Shepard, brought this organization to us, and we had three garment workers from Indonesia share their experience about working with Nike. And this was part of the education, and they shared their wage theft of how Nike continues to take money from them. And they stayed here in Oregon for about a week, and they went to the Nike headquarters and saw the intense wealth that the Nike headquarters has. They looked at their shoes that they produce, and just a pair of shoes cost just a month of their whole salary. So, and they produce multiple shoes a day. And so they're continuing to make money off of these workers that are predominantly women of color, and not pay them their fair share. Part of this is that a long time ago, we did a rally outside of the Nike store during Black Friday to stop people from shopping there. And we made a whole bunch of chants. So we taught some of the garment workers some of the chants.
We want teachers, we want books, we want the money that Nike took. Hey! We want teachers, we want books, we want the money that Nike took. Woo!
And that is what we want. We want teachers. We don't want to continue to lose teachers. We want books in our classrooms, and we want the money that Nike continues to steal from our educators, our communities, and our kids.
Thank you so much, Alicia. So we want to just take a moment to thank all of our incredible speakers. Thank you to UTLA President Cecily Mayart Cruz. Thank you, Gavin Marinchek from CCJ and the Payback Coalition, Alicia Chavez for Portland Association of Teachers, and JP Connolly from Silicon Workers Rising. If you do one thing coming out of this webinar, we ask that you please fill out the survey so we can continue to work with you, whether that's around research, whether that is around finding the bad actors in your area, bringing this presentation to your folks, and also connecting with other organizations and unions in your area. Thank you so much, and we hope the fight continues together.
And thank you to everyone on this call who's going to go back to your communities and start to organize around this stuff and talk to your friends and family and neighbors. We're the leaders that we've been looking for. So let's get to work, because we can make this change and we don't need to wait for anyone to give us permission. So look forward to seeing you all out there. Let's get to work. Bye, everybody.
What is the owl?
No, I don't want to hear the song again. Fuck you, assholes. Fuck you, assholes. I'm not listening to that fucking song again. All right. Well, that was, you know what? I'm going to be honest with you guys. That was like far significantly more socialist than I actually thought it was going to be. I really didn't expect. I thought that was going to be more of a progressive call. No, though they were getting pretty leftist there. I really did enjoy the whole section on the breakdown and definition of neoliberalism. I liked how it pointed out that they hate the Democrats just as much as they hate the Republicans, and then that is true for everyone. I really liked the section with the Los Angeles Teachers Union representative. I thought that that was very nice. I thought it was very telling. That was the leader for the Portland Teachers Union. That's the best they can do in Portland. That's who's teaching your kids, guys. Homeschool your kids. Homeschool. I liked the hit list that they put out on all the billionaires in all the states. I liked that they highlighted Curtis Yarvin. I liked that they talked about JD Vance being a plant. I was like, ooh, someone's been watching Nick Fuentes. Okay. But overall, I do think that was actually a pretty productive organizing call. What's my instinctual reaction towards it being more socialist than you anticipated? Well, okay, so here's the thing. The group that did this is like, it's one of the organizations that's working with Indivisible and the teachers unions. This is why there were teachers unions on that call. That organization in particular, I'm pretty sure worked with the teachers unions, the NEA, on the last May Day protests, which is why I'm on their mailing list. It's not a political organization, but I think that they manage like the events and things like that. And so I didn't, I guess, expect them to be that socialist. And it makes me want to look into more of what they're doing. Also, I don't even remember the names of the organizations of the people on the call specifically. They worked for different organizations than the host organization. And that makes me want to look into those organizations a little bit. Mostly, I think that this is about the unions, though. My big takeaway with all of this, and listen, people need to know, not everyone in a union is a socialist. Obviously, a lot of people have to be in unions that don't want to be in unions, but all unions are socialist, all of them. And socialists are utilizing the unions to try to recruit and radicalize more people. And so with the teachers union specifically, I would like Donald Trump to sign an executive order abolishing the teachers unions, all of the teachers unions. All of them. All of them. I want the NEA abolished. I want the AFT abolished. I want all of the local teachers unions abolished. I want all of them abolished, because the unions, you're seeing on that, like, one of the things that was so striking to me about that is, like, when they were taught, there were two teachers unions leaders on that call, one from Los Angeles and one from Portland. Were they actually talking about teaching students? Were they talking about anything having to do with education, anything? No, they were saying, we're communists and we want to protest the billionaires and we want to utilize the resources of the teachers and the schools and the students to protest the billionaires. And that's what we want to do. And it's like, you're supposed to be teaching people how to read. Like, in real life, you are supposed to be teaching people how to read. That is your one and only job. So that one, I think, was the biggest takeaway for me. I would like to make the very strong case that Trump should just abolish the teachers unions and be done with it. And that is what I would like to see come out of all this. But, you know, I'm just a lonely live streamer on the internet, live streaming socialism and stuff like that. I don't have any influence or power or anything like that. No influence here. Let me just see what's coming up tomorrow. Okay, so tomorrow for the No Kings protest, bing. So tomorrow there is an organizing call for the No Kings protest again. It's an event attendee pre-mobilization call. So this is going to be for people who are going to the protests to learn about them, I guess. I will be live streaming that, of course. We're going to do another spy stream. I will also do my normal stream at 5 p.m. tomorrow. So another double header. It's a busy week, guys. So come hang out on the channel. Excuse me. Welcome to all new people, especially new people for Spy Stream. We appreciate you guys being here. Everyone make sure you have mounted the like button on the way out the door, just so people know we don't smash the like button on this channel. We are not hooligans. We mount the like button as powerful human beings as we are. If you don't want to mount the like button because you're feeling a little self-conscious about it, you can give the like button a high five. You can give the like button a kiss on the cheek. You can give the like button a slap on the ass. You can do whatever you want to the like button. Really, the like button consents to everything. I just don't like smashing, okay? I'm old. I don't like it. Whatever. So mount the like button on the way out the door. And if you want to subscribe to the channel, I would really appreciate it. Welcome to all my new subscribers. I will be back tomorrow at 5 p.m. As a reminder, you can find an archive of my work over on my Substack, Karlyn, Karlyn.substack.com. I've got breakdowns of the far left. I've got daily live streams or almost daily live streams that I'm doing over there. I've got the Spy Stream archive. I've got lots of stuff over there. I've got investigative journalism, exclusive stories that I've broken that no one else on the internet knows about. And so you can find all that on Substack. And if you guys appreciate my work, please consider becoming a supporter on the Substack. You do get access to a variety of perks, like access to my supporter Discord. You get access to supporter exclusive streams and things like that. And you help me do this because I'm 100% funded by you guys. I have no political masters at all. I don't take a narrative from anyone. My only job is to provide the receipts and tell you guys the truth. And that's it. Then you guys get to decide what to do with it. I'm going to go take my leave, and I will see you guys tomorrow. And thanks for hanging out, guys. I appreciate it. We'll see you soon. Bye.
How are you feeling? How long have you been here?
3 months, May 17th.
And what brought you?
That's difficult to answer.
Could you give me some idea?
I am not completely like other people.
What do you mean by that?
People dislike me because I am not completely like them.
eventually resulted in your being here in the hospital.
That's difficult to answer.